one of the themes that I have people explore in mindfulness is working with ordinary sensory activity. That would be touch, sight, sound, feel, image, talk. These categories naturally organize themselves into certain subsystems. I mentioned in another segment that feel, image, talk is both a reactive and a proactive system. By reactive, I mean when you hear a sound or you're aware of a sight or something physically impacts your body, it may or may not trigger a mental comment. It may or may not trigger a mental picture. It may or may not trigger an emotional sensation in your body. If it triggers one, two, or all three of those, then I say that there has been a fit reaction, a feel, image, or talk reaction to the it of the touch, sight, or sound. And it turns out that you can monitor how your sense of subjective self, the sense of being a perceiver, you can monitor how that sense of self arises through different levels of activation of feel, image, talk. In the most extreme case, when feel, image, and talk, all three activate very strongly in response to an external stimulus of some sort, you will typically get a very strong sense of an I that is perceiving an it over there. However, as you're monitoring feel, image, talk, it could happen spontaneously every once in a while that there's a touch or a sight or a sound, and it doesn't produce any reaction in this system whatsoever. When that happens, you have little or no sense of a perceiving self inside of you. And if you monitor those fluctuations, repeat this kind of experiment over and over again, you can get an aha experience or an insight experience into the mechanism whereby the sense of I amness, at least in the sense of a perceiving self, arises. You can have an intense reaction of feel, image, talk, but if there's a lot of clarity so that you keep those components untangled, and if there's a lot of equanimity, which means that those components are completely unblocked. There's no suppressing of their arising, but there's no inappropriate holding on to them once they have arisen. That's equanimity. If there's enough clarity and equanimity, even though you would have a huge fit storm, a huge storm of emotionality in the body, visual mental associations, and judgmental chatter in your head, that doesn't turn into a self. It only turns into a self when there's unconsciousness and coagulation or fixation of the feel, image, talk reactions. That's what I meant when I said that these categories can bring insights as you're observing. Now, not only is feel, image, talk a reactive system, it's also a proactive system. When it's not reacting to touch, sight, sound, or some combination thereof, it usually goes off and begins to spin memory, plan, fantasy, problem solving, worrying, confusion, etc., etc. Neuroscientists now know about this and call it the default attentional system. It's being studied, but I call it proactive fit. Proactive in the sense that it's not reacting to the environment, it's just going off and spinning past, future, and fantasy, basically, plus problem solving. And then every once in a while, as I mentioned, the fit system is not reactive, it's not proactive, it just spontaneously goes inactive. Then there's just peace, blank, quiet. The body is emotionally peaceful, mental screen is blank, the head is quiet. If you happen to notice the moment that that occurs, which may be very fleeting, you will get what we call insight into no self. Now, of course, there are some other natural systems here. We can take touch, feel to be your body experience, the ordinary side of your body experience. Then there's also a restful system in your body, which is physical relaxation and emotional peace. Emotional peace is defined as a tangible awareness that your emotional centers are not active. They're in a restful state. They're idling, so to speak. So this gives a system of ordinary experience in the body and restful experience in the body. Then your mental experience is here, your visual thoughts and your auditory thoughts. So this is the ordinary side, image, talk, activity. However, there's a restful system in your mind, which is blank, quiet. The sense of an outer world of sights and sounds, well, that's here. The corresponding restful states are silence and the defocusing of your eyes, the soft focus with your eyes open, which I call light. One of the themes that I have people work with is different systems of ordinary experience. For example, they could focus in and just work with feel, image, talk, or they could focus out and just work with touch, sight, sound, or other combinations. And I call that theme focus on ordinary. Then by way of contrast, you can work with various restful systems, including the whole thing at once. You could just let your attention freely float among whatever restful states were available. Physical relaxation, emotional peace in the body, mental blank, soft focus of your eyes, and if there happened to be quiet or silence around you, you'd have an auditory component to the rest. The restful states are what most people who don't meditate think meditation is. And certainly releasing stress and recharging your battery through enjoying restful experiences is an important component in the meditative endeavor. And that's why I give people these various restful systems to work on, and I call that the theme of exploring rest. However, within the mindfulness tradition, taking ordinary experience and making it extraordinary by working with it using high concentration, sensory clarity, and equanimity, that's also an important way of practicing. And it's good because if you want to focus on rest, but you can't, there'll be a reason. The reason is there's too much activity. Well, then you can focus on the activity. On the other hand, sometimes people run into this situation where when they practice, not much is coming up. So in that case, how do you keep the edge of clarity and therefore the edge of growth? Well, I say when nothing much is happening as you're sitting there, 6 things are happening. Your body is physically relaxed, your body is emotionally peaceful, your mental screen is blank, your head is quiet, your eyes are defocused, and your ears are defocused. So you're having 6 restful experiences all at once. By being aware of that, that brings a clarity component into the experience of rest, and that clarity component guarantees that there'll be growth in your practice, that you won't get stuck in a good place of just mellowing out year after year without gaining insight and purification.